The SBF trial has began. Two directors speak out that SBF was always a loser, mismanaging funds and losing money. The new ETH ETF future goes live, but with a disappointing start. $220 million worth of Bitcoin was taken off exchanges. The first Volcano enhanced Bitcoin mining pool goes live, and the judge rejects the SEC's motion to appeal the Ripple ruling. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Crypto Daily. Obviously, a bunch of news, as we always say, but the SBF trial has began. Bitcoin obviously does not care. We shot up to like 28.5 yesterday and then kind of evened out since then. So we gave back most of the move, but still looking good for Bitcoin in spite of, obviously all this negative crypto attention around SBF. I think this whole case is going to be something that everybody keeps a close eye on, not just in the crypto space, but just in finance in general. So nothing really crazy happening so far with the trial. I think that they're looking for jurors right now. So definitely going to be some more coverage as we progress through this. But that being said, there has been some more, SBF kind of went out of the limelight for a while and now he's back in it. So two of the directors that kind of stepped into FTX later on throughout the, journey of the company basically spoke out and talked about how SBF was a terrible manager. The whole company was kind of floundering. He raised I think it was $170 million from investors when he was 26, and he was losing $500,000 a day. And they were saying that the coding was bad, the whole business model was bad, the management was bad from SBF. So kind of something that we wish we would have known earlier, but definitely interesting to hear more takes from the early days of FTX and how things were going. Will Clemente on X, VanEck's new ETF futures only did $2 million of trading volume in the first day, which was yesterday. Pretty wild compared to the Bitcoin futures ETF that did 500x that in its first day during the bull market. Shows how dead this market really is. So, two ways to look at this. One, Bitcoin's obviously a much bigger market than ETH. And two, we're in the bottom of the bear market, or maybe not the bottom, but in the lows of the bear market, and people are definitely feeling the heat right now. You're also seeing kind of a whole global economic crisis. So the situation is very different than when the Bitcoin futures ETF launched. But yeah, definitely something to keep a close eye on. I think the world at this point is waiting for a spot ETF. Nobody really cares about the futures ETFs at this point. So that's what I want to see. I want to start seeing that Bitcoin spot ETF just like everybody else. So speaking of exchanges, over $220 million worth of Bitcoin was taken off exchanges yesterday. So obviously most of us believe that this is bullish. We all love to see, Bitcoin moving back into the wallets, on chain as opposed to being on, centralized exchanges. So you can see this going back to May 2020, just an incredible decrease in the amount of Bitcoin that's being held on exchanges. So, there's mounting speculation about who's buying this Bitcoin, where it's flowing to. Some people think that there's big players like BlackRock that are stepping in. Others are pointing to, people like MicroStrategy and then retail investors. So I don't think we have a really clear answer on who's buying this Bitcoin and removing it from exchanges. Or maybe it's not even being bought. Maybe it's just being removed from exchanges in general, especially since the whole FTX collapse. I think we've seen a huge decrease in overall sentiment around centralized exchanges. But one thing we have seen is a growth in decentralized exchange volume, which is something that I've been a big proponent of. And, I obviously follow Thorchain and some other projects that are focused on decentralized exchange and just making the technology better, the use case better, the, UI, UX better. So overall, I think it's a positive thing. I'd like to see less Bitcoin and crypto in general held on exchanges. I'd like to see more, held in private wallets that are, when you want to trade it, you go through a decentralized exchange. And then, maybe if you have to cash out back to fiat, that's when you go through a centralized exchange. So positive thing, in my opinion. Another positive thing is that the first ever Volcano Bitcoin mining pool went live in El Salvador. So, they came out with this plan, I think it was like a year or two ago, and they talked about using renewable geothermal energy from their volcanoes to mine Bitcoin. And El Salvador actually has a lot of natural renewable energy. So definitely going to be interesting to see, how they scale up and perform in this way. And, I like the innovation from El Salvador, not just because, and even if you read some of these quotes, you can see that they're very like pro Bitcoin, using like Bitcoin terminology and stuff to kind of appeal to the Bitcoin community. But what I like more about it is the innovation and the thinking that goes behind looking at, alternative ways to generate profit, but also how to bring that profit back and reinvest it in interesting ways. So they're planning to reinvest the profits generated from the Bitcoin mining into making the energy infrastructure better. So that's better for the nation of El Salvador. It also potentially is better for their Bitcoin mining operation. And obviously, as they said, all of this decentralizes more of the mining activity, brings it more to a global scale. And if other countries start to do this as well, it's positive for Bitcoin in the long run. So cool to see. I want to see how much Bitcoin they start mining and if they start setting up more operations. So speaking of mining, we've got the halvening happening in March 2024. So that, with that in mind, most people are talking about the supply shock that's coming to Bitcoin soon. But not that many people are talking about the supply overhang. So Miles Ducher, he's kind of pretty well known on X for giving like a more hot take or like an alternative take to like all the positivity. Instead of just looking at the supply shock for miners, you could also look at how Celsius is distributing $2 billion worth of Bitcoin and ETH, FTX liquidations, which might happen after all these trials, the U.S. Government with the Silk Road Bitcoin that they seized, and then obviously the Mt. Gox Bitcoin, and then potential miner selling due to rising cost basis. So he's saying something to keep an eye on in Q4. Obviously, I think most of us are kind of looking out to like Q1, Q2, 2024 in terms of, in terms of the halvening. But this is just something to keep in mind. As much as people talk about the supply shock coming from the halvening, there still is a lot of Bitcoin circulating out there that is potentially looking to be sold. But you can't solely rely on that because there's always Bitcoin looking to be sold. If you're not a seller of Bitcoin right now at 25K, when it hits 90K, you're probably going to be a seller, or maybe you won't be. That's just kind of like a very subjective metric, but still something to keep an eye on, something to look out for. And yet another positive piece of news for the crypto industry. So most of us know that, and I covered it, what was it, probably 2 months ago, that the judge ruled in XRP's favor and said that Ripple was not a security. SEC did not like that. They filed a motion to appeal it within like a week of that ruling. And the news just broke that the judge on the case denied that appeal. So definitely a big win for crypto. We're kind of seeing the SEC's arguments against crypto kind of fall apart, which I think we all want to see. So this is not over though. There still is more to come in this trial. But the judge seems to be ruling pretty heavily in favor of, crypto as an industry through Ripple. So something I'm pretty excited about. And I know XRP holders are going to be excited about. I don't personally hold any XRP, but I just think that, they're kind of spearheading something for the industry in terms of, pushing back on the SEC and, kind of their heinous judgments of crypto. So that's all I got for today, October 4th. I will catch you guys tomorrow for the October 5th episode.